Hello, hello. Okay, we've managed. We are here. I'm Kayla Levin. I'm usually over at Kayla Levin Coaching, but I'm here to do a live today to answer a bunch of questions that came in and have a little schmooze about dating mindset versus marriage mindset. While you're coming in, if anyone wants to send me any questions, I'll tell you my favorite things to talk about, and I'll introduce myself a little bit. My favorite things to talk about are things about men that drive you crazy, and anything that has to do with mindset, with stuff you're stuck on, stuff that you just can't get over. I'll also tell you that I have some weird, whatever. I look not I'm very tired. My eyes are driving me crazy right now. And don't worry about me. Because everyone's like, are you okay? I'm fine. I just had an allergy or something like that. All right, I'm just posting to my other account so people know to come here. Please feel free to start putting things in. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see people coming in and names that I know and names that I don't know yet. All right, I'm just going to pull up some of the questions. So the reason I'm starting with who I am. Sorry. Give me 1 second. This is one of those days where I've just been running around like a crazy person with a chicken with its head cut off. How are you guys doing? How's your Sunday? Let me hear. How's everyone doing? There's a bunch of you on here. You having a good day? You're also feeling crazy? I'm going to assume everyone's going, oh no, what do we have? We have smiles, hearts. So I guess everyone's having a wonderful day. Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. All right. So I'm Kayla Levin. I run a podcast called How to Glow. I am primarily a newlywed coach, although I have this huge membership of women who are married up to 20 plus years, also called How to Glow. And I am on Instagram at Kayla Levin Coaching. If anyone wants to check me out, say hi over there. I would love to connect with you over there. And I've been doing this podcast for 4 years. And really it was originally called First Year Married. And what was amazing about it was that there wasn't really anyone out there talking about how challenging Shana Rishona could be. Now, I know for those of you listening who are dating, you're like, don't tell me about how challenging it is to get married. I would like to just do that and it's going to be great, right? If you're feeling a little frustrated about the dating process. However, that was my experience. My experience was that I got married. I grew up in Florida, Disney princesses, all the things, was waiting for my happily ever after. And as soon as I got married, all my stuff came up, all my insecurities, all my nerves, everything just kind of came up for me. And I had to learn how to deal with it. I had to learn how to be married, how to have a healthy marriage, how to feel confident about my marriage, because I felt really, really not confident. And, of course, the thing that we most need to learn, Hashem puts it in our life, and that's what he did for me. And I really had to just completely dive into learning everything that I could, getting everything I could get my hands on, every Shalom Bias class I could find, at that point, podcasts weren't such a big deal, but, listening to just a lot of different things and reading a lot of different things and just really trying to get a handle on how do you make a healthy marriage. So it's a little bit kind of strange for me to be here in some ways, in that I'll tell you, I didn't go through the Shidduch system personally. And so I want to just say that straight up, that, I have all the respect in the world. As much as I admire the Shidduch system as a Baal's Tshuva, I didn't experience it personally. And so I hope that I don't say anything that's out of line for what your experience is. And I will try to stay in my lane in terms of what I know and what my expertise is. However, what I do experience is talking to ladies who are recently married and kind of helping them clean up some of their experiences from Shidduchim, or what a lot of women have just growing up in the West, even in the frum world. We have so much negative messaging about men baked into our culture that it is almost impossible to reach adulthood unscathed. It's almost impossible to reach adulthood and not think that men are basically the lazier, the less, with it, the less, emotionally intelligent, the less capable of communicating. And that's okay. I love the thought that if something is happening across the board, then apparently that's the way it was supposed to be, because Hashem is running the world, right? But I want to clean that all up for you guys, because I think that, whether it's a dating thing or a marriage thing, whatever is out there that we can address today, that's what I'm here for. I'm here just really to help you with anything that I can. So the topic for today, and again, I'll just say for the people who came on recently, the topic for that you're welcome to send me any questions at all. As a mindset coach, as somebody who works with newlyweds a lot and has for several years, that I can help with, please let me know. Just start sending them in, and I'm going to take questions in a second. And it's just so nice. I love all the hearts and seeing all your names. It makes me so happy. So I have a podcast episode called Dating Mindset versus Marriage Mindset. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because we do something really strange if you think about it, right? We tell people, go out there and put together this list of like, what's going to make you happy? What will complete you? What will bring out the best in you, right? And figure it out and get it down on paper. And like, once you've got that thing, we're going to start dating and we're going to meet the people and we're going to compare him to the list and we're going to see, and hopefully you're following your gut also, and you're getting a little bit of that. And is there attraction and all these things? And then I think I got the guy. I think I found the guy. By the way, not everyone who gets married feels totally confident. So please know that I coach a lot of women who were not confident that this was the right guy, the right choice, quote unquote. Hashem doesn't make mistakes. You choose the guy and you get married, and now all of a sudden we go, no. He can't be responsible for your happiness. You have to be responsible for your happiness. No. Like, it's not about finding the right guy. He's your guy. You have to just commit to this guy. He's your guy. Like, this is the guy. Be totally in. And one of the things that we know from mindset coaching and just from neuroscience is that when you practice thinking a certain way, you're going to continue thinking that way. So we have a little bit, and again, I'm not coming down the Shidduch system because I think the Shidduch system is beautiful, but one of the things that we want to know as intelligent consumers of that system or intelligent users of that system is that we're practicing a certain way of approaching a partner that we're going to have to make a dramatic shift about when we get married. Okay? And I want to kind of offer you like what could be our middle ground. And if you have any questions, if this isn't making sense, please feel free to send in, or like or if you had a personal experience, that will be really helpful for everybody. Like, oh my gosh, I see that, or I saw that with my sister, or whatever. You don't have to call out specific people. So how can we sort of reach this middle ground where I'm not looking for a husband like I'm looking for the, best smartphone on the market, right? Or the prettiest dress. I'm trying to look for a husband in a way that I'm going to be able to take the same approach and carry that with me into marriage. Yeah? So let me know if that makes sense. Is that resonating for you? Do you understand kind of the premise that I'm setting up here? Yeah, that I want to offer you a way of approaching dating that's going to work for you as you move into marriage. So we're not doing this radical shift from like, I'm looking for the best, I'm looking for the thing that will make me happy, to now all of a sudden, I don't want to be completely reliant on another person to make me happy, because I'll tell you, that doesn't ever have us show up the best way. Let me just paint the picture for that for a second. Okay, I'm hoping the hearts means this is making sense. Why don't we want to do that? Like, what's the problem? Okay, like, I think that's probably really valid. Let's discuss that first. Why not? Why not just, find the best guy, find the guy who's going to make you the happiest, marry that guy, and then you'll be happy. So here's why. In any relationship that we have, and most people have this most strongly with their husbands and their mothers that I coach, in any relationship that we have this manual for them. It's like this invisible instruction book in our head about how a husband's supposed to be, or how a mother's supposed to be, or how anything. We all have them for ourselves for sure. And then the person just goes and does something else. It's crazy. They just go and they don't follow the manual. It's like they don't even know it's there. Like, your husband just doesn't do the thing that you just asked him in front of your parents to do. What is happening, right? He says no to you, or he doesn't remember your birthday, or he does, whatever the thing is, yeah? And it creates, even in small situations, it creates a ton of resistance for us. It creates a ton of frustration and negativity. Like, how is this person not doing the thing? And if I've approached getting married with the idea that he's supposed to make me happy, when he doesn't do the thing and I'm disappointed, it's a very small jump to go, oh my gosh, maybe that was the wrong person. And I don't want any of you to ever feel that way, right? So that's why we want to be so careful going in, that we're really clear on, why am I choosing the person that I'm choosing? Why am I prioritizing what I'm prioritizing? It's not so I'll be happy. Because what makes me happy is my inner monologue, is my inner story about my life. And you all know that because you've all had days where you're like, literally nothing's going wrong and I hate everyone, right? Because you're just having all these toxic, poisonous thoughts all day long. We all do that. That's fine. We don't need to also hate that we do it, right? And we have days where we're like, I had so many challenges and I came out of it feeling like $1,000,000. Like, what happened here? What happened is that your emotions are dictated by your thinking, which means they're not dictated by him, by the guy. And as far as shidduchim, they're also not dictated by how he's showing up on the date, how he's treating you, right? Now, let's just be very clear. Am I saying that once you get married, it's like, okay, husband, do whatever you want. You can be terrible to me and I'm responsible for my feelings? No, absolutely not. What I actually find is that the more authority we take over our internal world and our thinking, and I'll try and give you some tools on how to do that today, the more we advocate for what we really need, and the more we're able to get back in our own lane of like, okay, what's in my control, what's in his control? And if I'm spending my whole life focused on, I need him to do this so that I can be happy, we become really, really creepy and manipulative. Okay, that's just what happens. Because if your whole emotional life is tied up with the other person's behavior, all your mental resources are going to go into trying to convince them or get them to behave a certain way. And I don't know hypnosis. I don't think anyone on this call knows hypnosis. That's the only way I know of to completely control other people. And I don't think that's what we want to be doing with our husbands anyway. Yeah? So what do I want to offer you? What I want to offer you are two tools in terms of for the dating parsha, and then I'm going to start answering some of the questions that were sent in. And again, if anyone wants to send questions, I'm happy to take them. Number one, I'm going to offer you. Stephen Covey wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Almost everyone owns it. Very few people have actually read it if they own it, but you should read it. It's a great book. And one of his 7 habits is begin with the end in mind. What are we going for? And I want to empower all of you to look for an end that's a lot bigger and more meaningful and resonant for you than the guy that makes me happy. Me being happy is a very small end goal, right? So what could be an end goal? And please share them if you're willing to do that, like even if it's not for sure, but ideas. An end goal could be the kind of family you're looking to build. An end goal could be the contribution you want to make to the Jewish people. An end goal would be the kind of person you want to develop into, right? These are end goals. And if I have a vision for myself and for my future, then it starts to become clearer to me where another person can fit into that vision, right? One of the sort of teachings that I give to my clients all the time, because they'll be like, well, why I need this love language and he has that love language and it's so frustrating. And I'll say to them, if Bill Gates is going to go partner with someone else, is he looking for a clone of himself? No. He's looking for a person who's as different as possible, who has a totally different set of skills. And what does that mean? He's going to be different from you. Now, just to be clear, that doesn't mean you need to go look for someone from a completely different background. There's enough that's different just if he's a guy and you're a girl, so you don't need to go searching for different. But when we get frustrated from it, right, we want to understand that it means it's 2 separate skill sets. I don't even remember why I started with that, but going back to this concept, okay? Oh, because why is Bill Gates even bringing in a partner in the first place in our imaginary business? He's bringing in a partner because he has a vision for what he wants to execute, and he sees there's something missing. I have this skill set, I can do these things, but I can't do this thing over here. So let me bring in this lady or guy and see if they can contribute, right? If they can help fill the gap, if we together can build that business. So if we're imagining our marriages and our dating, if I'm focused on my vision, this is a way that's going to help me narrow down options and get clear and be able to communicate effectively what it is that I'm looking for. That's critical, right? And so helpful. But it's also not going to come back and bite me on the other end. Because let's say I decide I want to be a balas chesed. This is a midah that I need to work on. This is a midah that feels core to me. It feels important to me. I want to become a balas chesed in this lifetime. So what am I looking for? Maybe I'm looking for someone who supports that vision. Maybe I'm looking for someone who's a bal chesed. Maybe not. Maybe I'm looking for someone who has very strong standards and I can be there and support that. And he can hold on to the structure while I can hold on to being that person who's out there and giving to the world. I don't know. This is my vision. This is something that feels meaningful and resonant for me. Now I've got an idea. Now I can start to think about what would complement that, what would help me create that and realize that in the world. Now we're married. And let's say I want to start doing some chesed And he's like, no, I really need you at home. Guess what? You want to be Balas Chesed? Maybe that's where you should be doing your chesed, right? Your vision isn't contingent upon him cooperating, or really the word is complying. This is what we start wanting our husbands to do, is to comply. You don't want to be in that kind of situation where you want someone to comply with you. That's yucky, right? So I can keep my vision of who I want to be. I want to have a strong Torah home. Guess what? Even if my husband isn't making minyan, because yes, that one gets coached on a lot, I can say to myself, I'm here to support Torah. What's the Torah asking from me right now? And I'm giving two of those types of examples, but whatever the example is for you, whatever resonates for you is what's important. So that's one tool you can use, because that's not going to kick you on the other side, right? As opposed to, he's supposed to make me happy, and then all of a sudden he doesn't make me happy, and then now I'm in a big conundrum. I say, I'm looking to develop this part of myself. I'm looking to contribute this piece into the world. You can do that before and after, right? You can do that in your dating process. It will guide you in your dating process, and it will support you in marriage to think about, okay, how am I trying to show up in this relationship, which is so much more empowering than, is he making me happy? That's one of the worst questions you can ask yourself, because it's like, then your brain just wants to answer, like, why not? Like, why isn't he? Why maybe he's not succeeding in that? Okay. All right. So that's tool number one. Tool number two that I love is, if it's hard for you to picture what it is that you want to bring into the world, this tool can only be used if you aren't currently dating anyone, or you don't have a person in your head that's like your ideal, but you just kind of vaguely are looking for someone. Is you start to just really try and articulate that ideal guy. Who's like, if you could have it all your way, who's your husband? What's he like? I mean, do everything that the dating coaches say don't do. Go do all of it, right? Don't just choose the top 3 or whatever. Like, really, what does it look like? And try and imagine, what would it look like when I'm, 3 months pregnant and throwing up? How's he behaving? Does he make me, or he stays home and holds back my hair, right? Like, what's all the different things? How is he with his family? How does he speak to his mother? What is he like with his professional life? How is he with his younger siblings, if he has them? Really, really flesh that out. Now that you have this sort of image in your head, don't go find him. And ask yourself, if I knew this guy, what kind of girl would he be looking for? And again, this is why it's really important you don't use a real person. But if you're using this based on who you designed, then what it's going to show you very powerfully is who you really want to be. It's going to show you what values speak most strongly to you. Because sometimes our self-image is so low, we can't imagine ourselves as our ideal. If we don't even know our ideal, it's very hard to work towards it. But this game kind of tricks you, right? I get distracted with the guy, and then afterwards I come around and I start to see. So I'll tell you that for myself, chesed was very important to me. It was a very important need. I wanted that in the person that I married. And then it occurred to me, maybe I should be doing some chesed. Like, maybe that matters, because he probably is looking for a girl who does chesed, right? So whatever the thing is, if he's a guy who's super into his health and making sure that he's in good shape, okay, so maybe I should go to the gym once a week. Maybe that's important to me, because why would I pick that guy if that wasn't something that mattered to me? Make sense? Again, you can't use a real guy. Why? Because I don't want you contorting yourself to fit some person. Right? The point is for you to get clear on what's inside of you, but I want to trick your brain a little bit, because if your self-image is low, or if it just feels too hard, or you've gone through so many years trying to be that person, or you don't even know who that person is, this will give you a lot of clarity. All right? I think that's what I'm going to start with, just that for now. We have a lot of questions, so I want to start getting to them. Again, please feel free to send them in. I don't think I can see DMs right now. You know what I can see? I can see my DMs on my other account. So if you go to @Kayla11Coaching, probably don't have to say the @ If you go to Kayla11Coaching, if you DM me over there, if you want to ask me a private question, I can read it. I've had that up on my computer while I'm doing this. Okay. So again, I'm mostly focused on things that guys do that drive us crazy. Number one, because I do a lot of coaching on that with my marrieds, and mindset issues. So there might be some questions here that I just don't feel qualified to answer, because I'm not a dating, specific. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will try and give you some some ideas. Okay, so here are the first questions that came in. All right, I asked some ladies to say, I just got a couple, but I asked ladies on my account to say, what are some things about men that frustrate you? Like you tend to feel, annoyed by. So let's just go through a couple. Don't lift a finger. They rely a lot on traditional roles. Let's see. Oh, I don't have the whole thing, but she's basically saying that I think the wives are working really, really hard, and then the husband just kind of is doing his thing and letting her do her thing. Having to communicate with them what you want them to communicate with you. And then I have two others I'm going to answer separately. Okay. So I want to talk about a concept. I learned this from Allison Armstrong, and she gave me her blessing to go out and teach it to our community. There's a concept that she describes it so beautifully. I love her language. Single focus and diffuse awareness. Men have single focus. Single focus means and let me just be clear. Single focus and diffuse awareness happen in the womb. Our brains, the male baby is bathed in testosterone. The female baby is bathed in estrogen. It changes the wiring of the brain. So when we look at our husbands and we're like, why can't you communicate like me? It's because the wires are different. They are attached to different places. Like one of the ones I love, there's a book called Why Gender Matters. And one of the things that he talks about is that the language center of a woman's brain is attached directly to the feeling center. So what do we want to do? We want to talk about our feelings. And we have a lot of words for our feelings. It's not just happy and sad. We have like resentful, we have anxious, we have panic, we have like all these different colorful words to describe our feelings. Why? Because it's directly attached to the language center. So language helps us understand and incorporate and go somewhere with how we're feeling. Guess what the language center is connected to in the male brain? Spatial relations, not language. Okay? That means he's good at giving directions, right? He's good at telling you what it's like out there. He's good at telling you what the field is. He's good at telling you how far away it is, how you play football. He's good at telling you that. And the same satisfaction, I would venture that the same satisfaction that you get from describing your feelings, from having this internal world that you're able to put to words, he might be getting the same satisfaction describing something physical out in the world. It's a completely different operating system, right? So another thing that happens, so that actually is for the last question, right? Which is, why do I have to communicate to him what I want him to communicate with me? Because when you ask a man to put his feelings into words, it's one of these, right? Like scratching the ear, like that. You're asking him to go from here to here to bounce around his brain and to put the things together. Can you do it? Yes. By the time they're dating, most men have figured it out. They've had to. Especially if they took English class with a female teacher who wants them to talk about the emotions that all the characters are feeling. Much harder for a male student than a female student. Okay? So probably he's figured it out, but it's not natural. It's not the natural way of things. So to me, these things, these paradigm shifts are so freeing because there's not a better or worse, and there's certainly no mistakes here. And it fascinates me how, as women, we can be a little, elitist about our verbal ability to describe emotions. And we're never like, oh, I'm so bad at describing how to, I don't know, whatever spatial relation type thing would be happening. And we sort of act as if the way that we communicate is the right way, and because they can't, they're like, what's going on here? I'm dealing with a Neanderthal, yeah? And so I just offer that to you as a new way of looking at it. Another thing, so now going back to her concept of single focus and diffuse awareness, is that as women, one of the things that estrogen does to our brains is it makes us really aware of everything going on around us. So if you've ever been in a room where you knew that one person was angry and you couldn't pull your attention away because you were so aware, and if there was a guy in the room and you asked him what do you think was going on with her? He'd go, what? What are you talking about? Why? Because he has single focus. What does that mean? Whatever he's in that room to do is what he's focusing on. It doesn't mean he's there to listen to the teacher or the lecturer. I don't know what he's there to do, right? Every guy has his own thing. But whatever he's there to do, his brain is filtering out extraneous information so that he can focus. This is why I often find with my clients that when they're working, they have to find an extremely quiet environment where there won't be any distractions. Because when we put ourselves into a situation where we need single focus, our brain gets pulled so easily into different directions, into different things. We need to like artificially close ourselves into a very, very, very focused environment, where for men, it's not necessarily the same thing. Okay, I have a whole story about this with the male and my husband, and you can remind me later if you want to hear it. But basically, what it means is that sometimes we get offended because we think they must be noticing all the things that we're noticing, right? Don't lift a finger is a perfect example. Okay, fine. So I'll just tell the story about my husband and the male. So when we were first married, it's like not when we were first married. I think we had 1 or 2 kids. So I think probably 3, 4, or 5 years married. We lived in a house, and we had the filing was in the back of the house, and obviously the mailbox was out in the front of the house. And so my husband's transition ritual, which most men have some kind of transition ritual when they come home. You might think about this for your fathers if you ever noticed it. He comes home and he like does certain things repeatedly to go from being in work mode to being in home mode. So my husband's transition ritual, and this is actually something I actually learned at home because my father had one and we spoke very openly about it. Like they called it transition time. And the kids didn't talk to him until he finished transition time. And we would say, are you done with transition time? Turns out it's like not just my dad, it's like all men. So my husband's transition ritual when he got home from work is he would take the mail and he would go to the back of the house and he would file it. But in going to the back of the house, what was he doing? He was passing by me and all the things that were stressing me out. The sink full of dishes, the toys on the floor, the baby crying, me collapsed on the couch, right? Like me in my emergency mode of like, how come you didn't come home 10 minutes ago? And he would go straight to the back and put everything in the mail. He'd say something to me. He didn't completely ignore me, but like he wasn't like, oh my goodness, let me stop everything. Let me help you. It looks like you had a really hard day. And I took it very personally. I felt like sometimes I thought he was lazy or inconsiderate. Often I just thought he didn't care about me. That he didn't really, if he loved me more, then he would want to stop and take care of me. I felt like he was sort of saying like I wasn't doing a good enough job. I should have taken care of it. Not his problem. It's my problem that the house was so messy. So then I learned this material for the first time, and I said, oh my goodness, is it possible that because he has single focus, and his focus right now is filing the mail, that his brain filters out all the toys and stuff that he's like jumping over, that he's having this like Olympic event of getting past the toys to get to the other room? And so I asked him, I said, like, does your brain keep you from even like your brain helps you just go straight past all those toys and stuff so you could just file the mail because you're focused on it because you have single focus? And I kid you not, he looked me straight in the face and he said, what toys? Like these toys that I was having this whole drama over, right? That he wasn't taking care of it. He wasn't helping. He wasn't, as this one says, lifting a finger. What was happening actually? What was actually happening was his brain was filtering out extraneous information. And I want you to know this is a fabulous thing because you really do need one of each. You need somebody who's available to do all the little things. And let's just be clear, it's very clear that women cannot be in diffuse awareness all the time. It's not good for you hormonally. You do need some time where you can just dive into a project and achieve flow and just be focused on one thing. But let me just make sure this isn't coming up. Okay, great. More questions coming in. But it's really, really helpful to have one person who can handle all the little things popping up and another person who will just stay focused on the task and get it done. Okay? So not lifting a finger can sometimes come from the fact that their brain has already filtered out that information. Another thing that I find very, very frequently, and I don't want to go into this too deeply, but is that women are often motivated by negativity. And what do I mean by that? We don't like this. We don't want to be doing this. We try very hard and we work on ourselves to not do this. But if we know someone's going to judge us for doing something, it's very hard for us to do that thing. And part of the reason is that for us, social acceptance is hardwired into the survival part of the female brain. Not so for men. That's why who's out there doing crazy, crazy things. You know, like because I spoke to a group in Ramat Eshkol, and I said to them, if I offered you $20 to put on a giraffe costume and walk up and down the boulevard, no one would know it was you even. Would you do it? Raise your hand if you would do it. Not a single hand went up. I said, how many of your husbands would do it? Every hand went up, and 2 women said, my husband would do it for free. Right? Why? Because there's no survival skill of being socially accepted in the male brain. Okay? So what does this mean? Why am I even talking about this? Oh, so that when we turn to our husbands and we try to, and I know you're not married yet, but this is valid information, to motivate them, to get them to do something, to help us, we often start with negativity because that is so powerful for us. If someone's going to be disappointed in us or dislike us or judge us for doing something, it works really well. So it'd be like, it's really not working, like we have this like negative attitude about how he should be helping more. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that part of his brain, doesn't work at all. I shouldn't say unfortunately, I think this is actually total magic. What motivates him? Winning. What do boys like? Video games, sports, points, scoring points, hundreds of points, thousands of points if possible. As many points as you could possibly have, and they need to light up and they need to sparkle and they need to shine, and I want to get more and more and more. Okay? They love points. So what Hashem did, which is to me so delightful, is Hashem created the man and the woman where the woman is going to have to overcome her tendency towards that negativity and find a way for her husband to win. How he can win, how he can score points, how he can succeed, how he can please her, how he can make her so happy and just light her up. And it brings out the most powerful part of us as women when we get there. So it's very magical work to do. Okay? So those are two reasons that a man can sometimes... Now, am I saying there's no such thing as a lazy man or a man with bad midos? Obviously not. Obviously not. But there are so many men who are being communicated with as if they are women. And this can be key for a lot of relationships, for the majority. Okay? So why could they look lazy? Sometimes just because, what's the point? You're going to be unhappy anyway. The only reason he's doing it is to make you happy, right? Okay. Another thing that was put into this one, and I just want to make a comment, I think it's very important in terms of the context of a Shidduch conversation, is someone wrote in, unwilling to take meds to feel better, and outbursts of anger. Two different, so I'm going to sort of separate them and keep them together. In the context of Shidduchim, if you are dating and you don't know the red flags of an abusive situation, please educate yourself. And by educate yourself, I do not mean go onto a random Facebook group and ask your friends if this behavior sounds bad to you. We have an amazing resource called Shalom Task Force. There's courses on there that you can take. It is critical to know because why? On the one hand, people miss it and then they try and contort themselves to make someone happy who cannot be made happy and is not healthy. And of course, we don't want to end up in that situation. On the other hand, friends tend to diagnose everything as abuse, okay? And that can be very dangerous as well. So, and what ends up happening, unfortunately, is that so many things are being called abuse that then the things that are actually abuse it's getting watered down. So we need to make sure that we're super clear cut on that. So anytime I see something like outburst of anger, I want to just like make sure that we're being really clear here. Is this a safe situation? What's going on here? Now, normal people have outbursts of anger also, right? And also, I have worked with many couples where one of them has unhealthy, like bad mental health, right? If they are, I don't even want to say if they're working on it, because the truth is for a lot of people who are depressed, it takes such an incredible amount of effort even to be working on it. This is a great dating mindset versus, double click on Shalom Task Force there. This is a great separation between dating mindset and marriage mindset, right? When we're talking about in the dating context, right? These are things that we want to look at as red flags. When we're talking about in a marriage context, that's when we're kind of turning the table and saying, okay, well, if I'm married to this person and it's not an abusive situation, now I've got some shilas to ask, right? It's a little bit different. I don't want to go into that too much because it's a very specific situation. All right. Oh, can I see that question? Cool. Yeah, guys, I seriously don't even know how to do Instagram. It's really pathetic. I was like, there's questions. This is magical. Okay. These are beautiful questions. I'm like, all right. I'll just go through them. Dating advice as an older BT, which is 27, after a broken engagement at 25. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I don't know if this is open to men as well. If it is, and you're a man and you're listening, then I would love to hear your experience of anything that I described about communication, about motivation, about points. Okay. So again, my focus is mindset. Although I always want to just be like, let's introduce you to, I don't know anyone. That's terrible. I know like 2 people and I'm trying really hard. I would encourage you to do something I call a brain dump. We have especially, it's something called, I like to call it thought perfectionism. As, you know, believing from ladies, we try to have like nice positive thoughts. I would imagine as a person with a broken engagement, you have 2 layers of thoughts, right? And this is with anything that ever happened to anyone. Your parents got divorced, like anything that you consider negative, okay? Mitzvah Hashem, you got to the point where that was the best thing that ever happened to you. So what I tend to see happen a lot with my clients is that they have all these like negative thoughts about what does that mean about me? What does that mean about dating? What does that mean about my future? And as soon as they start going there, they immediately jump to like this, whatever. Either it's hashkafa or it's positive psychology, or they just want to jump to the healthy thought. You want to jump to the positive thought. And I want to offer to you that sometimes we want to examine the negative thought. And I want you to be really like, hear me say the word examine. That's the critical part here. Not get lost in the story, not find out how it's true, not open an evidence file and fill it with tons of evidence why that situation is the way that my brain is saying it is. But to what I call a brain dump, you just put broken engagement at the top of the page and you sort of pass the mic to your lower brain, the child brain, the brain that's not intellectual, the brain that's not giving a share right now about, you know, emunah and bitachon. What are those thoughts that you're kind of trying to like shove in the closet and close the door? You just write them all out. Okay? Again, the reason I want you to write them in front of you is because it's very hard to examine your thinking while you are thinking. You write it out, you get it all out of you. It's just like word vomit, I'm sorry, on the page. And then I want you to look at it. And once you see it outside of you, you're going to be able to sort of have, it's that first level of mindfulness. Oh, this is the story I'm walking around with. Interesting. Okay? All of our stories create our feelings. Our feelings drive our actions. Why do we do what we do? Because of feelings. Why do we feel that way? Because of what we're thinking. Okay? And all those actions create whatever we have in our life. To the degree that Hashem gives us that, you know, choice. So, looking at those stories, what I tend to find is that the more we try to cover them up, the more we try to bounce quickly to something positive because this is an unhealthy thought and I shouldn't be thinking this, the stronger they get. It's like the monster under the bed that the kid, like, you know, or like in the closet, it's like looks like a real monster, but when I open the door and I look at it and I pull out the clothing, we're like, it's definitely not a monster, it's just an old coat, right? So we want to allow ourselves some space to do that. So that my advice to you, if you're looking for the mindset piece, would be to just give yourself this as a gift, not necessarily because this is going to like get you married faster or not or whatever, but as a gift for anything that anyone here has ever gone through that they feel is a challenge, is to allow yourself to put those thoughts into words. And then you just look at them and you just notice this is a story you've been carrying around for a while. And sometimes that's all you have to do. Because then your brain is like, nah, I don't believe those. And it's very different than trying to get away from them, because when we try to run away from them, we're implying that they're powerful. Okay, I have to go faster because I'm not going to get all the questions. I hope that was helpful. How do I know if I'm doing enough hishtadlus? I'm just deciding if I'm qualified to answer this question. Sorry for the pause. I'll tell what my husband's, one of his rabbis told him about work. That's all I'm qualified to do. Is he said, look at what other people are doing in your field. Now, this is a little different for you because you're surrounded by from people, so you have to think about how you want to apply this for yourself. But he was talking to men who were working in a field with non-Jews. And look at how much work they do and do 10% less. You can't do 50% less. You can't say, Hashem, if my bashart's out there, then, you know, if my money's coming to me, then I could just sit on the couch. Obviously, we know that, right? You can't do a dramatic amount less, but do push yourself, and it is a push, to do just a drop less to leave room for Hashem in the picture, right? But at the same time, so it's like helps us from both sides, right? So if I'm doing like only 50%, it makes me realize, okay, I need to look around, like what are other people really doing? What's normal? Yeah? I should be doing almost that much. but I'm going to leave just a little bit of room for Hashem. So I'm going to do just one little bit less. Yeah? That's what I can share with you. Okay, what's opinion advice from saying yes or going on a date with a boy who has had a past? It's so funny. We think so hard that sometimes it's really hard for us to just even tune into what's going on in our gut. So one thing that I would encourage you to do is to do that. Is not to ask. This is actually, I think, personally, this is advice that I live by and I find to be life-changing. So I love to share this with you. When you have that urge to ask everyone what you should do, and I'm not saying this person is, but we all have those situations where you just want to broadcast to as many people as possible, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It's a very strong and powerful urge. Those are also the times when it's so important for us to find out what our gut is telling us first. What do we know first? Right? And so the challenge I want to offer all of you is you don't have to say, I'll never ask. But ask yourself first before you go ask somebody else. So if someone is suggesting to you, they have a past. Technically, we all have pasts. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We'd all be newborns, right? But whatever the past is that you're describing, check with yourself first. What do I think? And then maybe consider the quality of the people that you're asking. So if you're not sure, do you have a trusted advisor? Do you have a teacher? Do you have, right? Who can I go to that's going to give me clarity on this, that I trust their opinion? Filter. Be picky, right? About what information we're bringing into our heads. Okay. I think that was all of these questions. I'm going to go back to these other ones that were sent in. And I hope I'm able to get to all of them before we have to go. Oh, we have 2 minutes. Okay. All right. Hopefully I can go. Can I go a little bit longer? I don't know if you can still send me questions or answers. Tell me if I can still go a little over. Okay. I said, what are other questions that I'm asking, like the SRT powers that be? If it's okay if I go a little longer. I asked any had mindset stuff that people felt that was holding them back from marriage. So one person said dating someone with a different cultural background. This is another great place to use that ask yourself first, because you know what? Look around the world. We have some beautifully, happily married couples that come from different backgrounds. And we have some people where that didn't work for them and they married someone from the same background, right? So you might want to ask around. You might want to get a feel for it. I do think you want to do some groundwork in terms of understanding, what is this practically going to mean? Like sometimes we don't want to do that research. Like, what does it practically mean? If I'm Ashkenazi, I'm going to marry a Sephardi guy. What is that going to look like in this situation? You might even be able to ask the person who suggested the Shidduch, what does their home of origin look like? But I will say that almost everyone is going to find major differences, right? You're going to be dealing with that. That is part of Shana Rishona. And in fact, there's a reason we have that mitzvah, because happily ever after is a myth. We have a mitzvah that you need to take at least a year, according to Rabbi Dr. Akiva Tatz. It's 10 years. Shana Rishona takes 10 years now to really consolidate and feel confident in the institution of your marriage. Oh, this is beautiful. Choosing challenges. Oh, hi, friends. Nice to see you on here. When are you coming for Shabbos? Choosing challenges that you can handle versus those that you cannot. So how to know whether you can choose, whether you can handle the challenge or not? I would encourage anyone who's like, there's like a challenge, you're not sure, can I take this Shidduch? It seems like a challenge. So first of all, get clear, again, what's the groundwork? Like, let's say his parents are divorced. Okay, is it a friendly divorce? Like, do they get along? Is there a ton is every family event going to be a lot of, like, what's going on? What does it actually look like? If I have 3 children and we're traveling for Yontif, are we not going to be allowed to, like, talk to the other, do one meal? Are they far away from each other? Different challenges are so different on the ground in different situations. So getting as much information as you possibly can. And then again, asking yourself first. And I would also check if there's urgency or scarcity behind the decision. Am I making a decision because I feel like somewhere one of those thoughts that's buried in the closet is I'm running out of time, or I need to hurry, or what if... Because if we really feel confident that I can have the person that I'm looking for, and I don't mean, again, my laundry list, I just mean the right person for me, then the challenge goes back to that original concept that I shared in the beginning of the live, which is, what am I here to accomplish? What do I want to create in this world? And then I go, is this person going to help me with that? Maybe their challenge will help me even more. Maybe this is not the challenge for me to take on if that's the thing that I want to be doing. But if you're uncomfortable saying no because you feel that like urgent, sort of like there's like something pushing you to say yes, it's very different than a gut instinct, right? So you want to really give yourself some space. Go for a walk. Don't listen to anything, right? Really try and tune in. It's amazing how much our bodies know. All right. Okay. What's the best advice to get the conversation flowing if it's a bit stilted? What did you say? Okay, I'm still getting questions, so I guess we're done. Can it just be a connection issue, or is there a way to open the conversation towards more of a flow? Okay, so first of all, I would just definitely encourage you not to judge the conversation as stilted. Whatever it is what it is, and when we're resisting it or nervous about it, which I know is probably very, very hard not to do, yeah, but it just is. Like, if we can kind of get to this like very zen place of like, I'm just with this person, and if this person speaks in a way that's different and seems more stilted, because again, like I said before about how the language center is different for men, then we can just be experiencing the person instead of all that weight and heaviness of like, I have to create, I have to push this forward, I have to do this, make the conversation quote unquote work, right? And then the other thing that I would just give, which I think is so important, and I like try to remind this to my kids all the time, interested is interesting. And real interested, not fake creepy interested, but like real people love talking about themselves, right? As long as they're not going to fail, they can't mess up because you're not looking for something particular, and because people can sense that, right? But just being interested in the person, figuring out what makes them tick. And one of the great ways of kind of releasing our need for people to show up and be a certain way is to just kind of observe them, almost like you're like an anthropologist, like studying, like, oh, what is going to make this particular specimen of man, like, or woman, like open up, like, let's see, I'll try this. It can kind of get like scientific and playful. It can take a little bit of the pressure off. Okay, so this one I think is a great one to put up for people to comment on, which I think is not for me, 'cause it looks like they're looking for a lot of answers. Is it normal to feel like just giving up when it comes to dating? Like when anyone says they have an idea, something ends up not working out. It's totally normal. It's totally normal. And again, it's completely mindset. And what I would encourage you to look at isn't what's the mindset that's making you want to give up. I would say, what's the mindset that made you feel burnt out in the first place? Can we fix that before you go back in? Can you give yourself a little bit of a break so that dating could be something that doesn't drain you, right? And you might even need to create some clear parameters for yourself. Maybe you're like, okay, if I'm going to date again, here's the deal. I'm only going to hear 5 suggestions at a time, or I don't know, whatever. Like, only going to go on 1 date a week. I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to spend this much money. I'm not going to buy any new clothing. I'm not going to stress about makeup. Like, what do you need to be able to do this in a sustainable way? Because sometimes we push ourselves so hard, and then later we're like, oh, I just can't do that. It's like we were the ones pushing it so hard in the first place. So can you make it more sustainable? Look at what the mentality was that had you burning yourself out, right? Not from judgment, but from like self-love. And then see if maybe that can help you. Okay, this is a great question. Is it okay to marry a person just based on logic? Like, do you like him? He's a good person. Will treat you right, even if that strong love isn't there. Will it come after marriage? All right, this is such an important question. The love isn't supposed to come before marriage. Sometimes infatuation comes. Okay, some couples experience infatuation. I have heard from, the experts, quote unquote, you do need some level of attraction, so there should be some, but for most women, attraction grows. They actually did a study, I think it's so interesting, where women who'd been married longer started to be attracted, like if they were shown a panel of men, like, and had to rate them as attractive, they started to rate men as more attractive that looked like their husbands. Like, your taste changes even, which I think is so cool. And attraction also for women often comes from, does he seem like he can provide what it is that I really need? Which might be emotional support, it might be financial support, it might be Torah, it depends on the person. Okay, so just to put that in there, that you're not really supposed to feel the strong love before. Again, this is why we have the concept of Shana Rishona. You definitely want to feel like you have what to build on. That's critical. hopefully that clarifies that. Okay, this is for the clow, so that's not for me. Okay. Oh, this is interesting because we're going back to the gut. So this is the last question that I'm going to take. And then we're going to sign off. Thank you guys for coming. And also if you want, I know you're not married yet if you're on here, but there's a lot of not married people listening to my podcast. If you would like to start listening, I teach a lot of mindset stuff, and we don't specifically talk about marriage all the time. I would love for you to come and listen. It's called How to Glow. You can get it on Apple, Spotify, everything it's there. And also you can follow me at Kayla Levin Coaching. So this is the last question I'm going to take for today. And it's how to know when to give someone a chance and go out without draining yourself. Didn't I just say this? Basically, is there a value to trusting your mood or gut as to if you should go out with someone or say no? Being in the mood or pushing yourself even if you're not. So this is the piece that oh, thank you. See, some people listen to the podcast. Baruch Hashem, we have actually a ton of people listening to the podcast. It's crazy. So I make a huge differentiation between your mood and your gut, okay? Our mood tells us what's going on in our head. Like I said, your thoughts create your feelings, okay? So when we trust our feelings too much, it's a little tricky. Like when I was first married, I trusted my feelings to tell me how my marriage was going. That was a really bad idea, okay? Because like I said, I was super, super insecure about my marriage. So I felt terrible about my marriage all the time because insecure thoughts create insecure feelings. So you don't want to go so much with your feelings, okay? That doesn't mean that you should ignore your feelings. You should find out why you have those feelings in the first place. You should find out what the story is and if it resonates with you when you look at it outside of yourself, right? When I look at the story, does that make sense? And then you kind of have that opportunity to decide about the thought. However, there is something about your gut. Right? And so we want to make sure, what I want to sort of leave you with is it's really important, especially as women, that we don't feel like we're bullying ourselves, that we're violating ourselves, we're putting ourselves into situations that are not okay for us. So we kind of have that moment of no, this is not okay, this is not comfortable for me. That's different, right? And that we have a strong intuition. It's very important that we listen to. If it's a mood issue, so there's a lot of different places that you can go with that. Well, number one is that you should be practicing self-care starting right now, right? And I personally differentiate between baseline self-care and exceptional self-care and regular self-care. So baseline self-care is, if I don't have 5 hours of sleep, I am not a human being and nothing happens till I nap. I don't trust any of my thinking, I don't make any decisions, and I don't worry about my mood because I know my mood is just because I didn't sleep enough. That's baseline self-care. And it's food and so different things go into baseline, right? Meds, if you need any meds. Okay? Normal self-care is no, this needs to happen on a weekly basis. I got to go to yoga twice a week. If it's a little bit less than that, I'm not at my best. But it's okay. I'm functioning. I'm above baseline. I can think normally and rationally, right? It's fine. But I'm not at my best. I really need to make sure I'm getting to yoga twice a week. Okay? Exceptional self-care, every once in a while I'm going to go on a retreat and I'm just going to totally geek out and learn something amazing. It's something like that, right? So if you're below baseline, and even though, at any stage of life we can be below baseline, don't trust your mood. Get the sleep, have a salad, do whatever it is that you need to do to get back to baseline, and then you can investigate. Okay, my friends, thanks so much for coming on here. So nice to come and visit over on Shidduch Roundtable. I want to make sure I said it right. And hopefully I'll see you over there at Kayla Levin Coaching. Have a great day, everyone.